Now for MHS City Talk.
Welcome to City Talk. I'm Jocelyn Bickford. This is
Cameron Mace. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Cameron Wilkins. I'm Senior Vice President of Security Bank and Trust Company here in Miami.
And I'm Lynn Robertson. I'm a Vice President at Security Bank and Trust in Miami as well.
Would you guys like to tell us how you verify customers' identity?
Sure. So we spend a lot of time, obviously at a bank you handle a lot of confidential information. We handle a lot of important information for customers, and it's very critical that we always make sure and know who we're talking to and verify their identification. Obviously, if you had money in our bank, we wouldn't want to be giving it out to the wrong person. So, we use common identity methods like your driver's license and social security cards and things like that. But also things you don't realize that we build relationships with our customers. And so whenever Cameron comes in the bank or Jocelyn comes in the bank, we get to know them and we actually get to have that relationship, and we know that when you call up, we can verify your identity by your voice. We recognize things like that. Now, that's not all perfect. We use lots of other methods as well. There are a lot of online transactions that take place, and those have kind of complex security systems that we make sure and make sure the information transmits and gets across to the right locations securely and safely. But we use all sorts of different methods to try and verify that the person that we're dealing with and serving is getting their transaction done correctly and safely. So
Good.
How is your bank different from Wells State Bank?
Sure. So most of the banks you'll interact with here in Miami, and small banks, these are community banks. They're local banks. So we have some similarities. But the nice thing about it is when we have a small bank like this, we can kind of set our own course. We can choose what services maybe fit our customer base needs, and we can also just kind of customize things. And so we're regulated. It's a very competitive industry, so there's a lot of different banks that do a lot of similar things, and it's highly regulated. So the government oversees a lot of what we do from a state level and a federal standpoint. But we also have a little bit of flexibility to try and offer some different services. And so you will see, especially if you start to shop around for maybe like a car loan or a home loan, you'll see some differences there in the types of products that you can get. Other banks maybe specialize in business loans and they want to offer more commercial lending things. Others want to focus on retail and consumer transactions. So our bank, we do a lot of the small town family consumer deposit accounts, savings, CDs, and things like that. But we also do a good amount of commercial lending. So a lot of businesses, so larger businesses, maybe hotels and tribal entities and things like that. We might do business with various organizations of a larger scale as well. So, but each bank operates a little bit differently, but again, kind of within the same rules that we all have to abide by.
Okay. Do you want to tell me what's the difference between a debit and a credit card?
Sure. Debits and credit, as you learn in accounting, are basically if you're putting money into something or if you're pulling money out. And so think of it this way: a credit card is money that you don't have yet, that you're going to have to pay back. So you're borrowing that money essentially. So whenever you pull against a credit card, that's money that you don't have access to. You're going to have to repay it at some point later, and you get charged interest for that. Debit cards, however, that's money that you already have. So you already have that accrued or set aside, put in your account, and you're dipping into it. And you're not going to have to pay that back necessarily. You already have it, and you're not going to be charged interest for it. And so they function the same way. For most people, you couldn't tell if you were sliding a credit card or debit card into a ATM or to a point of sale device or something like that. But it does function just a little bit different on the backside, and it all comes down to whether you have the money already or you want to pay it back later. So
Yeah. Cool. Okay.
Yeah, good question.
What is your advice to a young person to obtain a credit card?
So anybody young, if you're about 18 or going to be turning 18 soon, that's always a good place to start. A credit card, it's kind of a double-edged sword. You have the benefits of being able to establish your credit, which in the long run is going to be important. Most of us throughout our lives, we've got to borrow to buy a car, a house, take on other business transactions maybe. And so it's important to be able to establish credit However, it's a little risky at times too. You can kind of get in over your head, maybe borrow a little more than you want to pay back, or you feel comfortable paying back, and so that can be tricky. But it is a good way to start with a small credit card, a small balance, to establish that track record that shows that I'm trustworthy. You can lend me the money. I will repay it each month. And so just starting small, establishing yourself, gathering, kind of confidence in your ability to borrow and repay money is very important. And then just to be able to establish your credit score for the long run. It's a valuable thing, and probably where I would recommend most people should start. And then you'll know pretty fast if that's something that you're comfortable with or not. And some people, if you just don't feel comfortable borrowing money and having a credit card, that's okay too. There's lots of other ways that you can have a savings account, set aside money each month, and like we talked about previously, have a debit card instead of a credit card.
Okay.
Can you give an overview of all the different types of people, like, in your business?
Sure, yeah. So we have, and I'll let Malin talk about this. So she does our HR at the bank, so she interacts with everyone at the bank pretty regularly. But obviously when you have a small business of any kind, you have to wear a lot of different hats. There are a lot of functions that go on. We have tellers, which you typically interact with whenever you come to make deposits or pull money out of your account. We have loan officers who, if you were coming in to borrow money for a car loan or a home loan or something like that, they would be able to help you. We have new accounts assistants that would work with you if you were opening a savings account or a checking account, something like that. And then there's a lot of other functions that go on in the background. We have compliance experts that make sure that we're doing things that we're regulated to do, that we make sure we're operating safely. We have upper management that makes sure that the bank is safe and secure, that we have enough money in the right places at the right time, and that we're meeting our customers' needs. And so we have a lot of different people. So our bank is fairly small. We only have a little under 30 employees, but they wear a lot of different hats, and we have to juggle a lot of different responsibilities. And so, but it's fun, especially in a small bank. You get to try a lot of different things. You get to work on a lot of different projects. Whereas if you were a bigger bank, maybe you'd kind of get siloed into one very specific task. We don't get that at a small bank. We get to work on a little bit of everything, and Malin can attest to that. Yeah.
Juggle the hats.
Yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else you'd like to say about number of people we work with and some of the skills? There's a lot of different skills. I mean, we've got a lot of interpersonal skills and people skills. So we've got the people that are very good with interacting with the public. Other people, they're maybe the number type that they can sit behind the computer and really crunch the numbers and focus on things. And so it takes a lot of different people with a lot of different skill sets.
Yeah, you just don't realize how much is actually going on in the background as well, not just your customer-facing employees. So,
sure.
Is there anything you guys would like to talk about?
So I think it's probably good to talk about just establishing yourself with a bank, and there are some benefits to that. If you've never considered opening up a checking account or savings account or something like that, it can be very useful. Obviously, it's a secure way to be able to put money aside and be able to access it whenever you need it, and it also kind of builds that good habit. The thing that I like and I talk about quite a bit is just the ability to save. I'm a loan officer, so a lot of my time is spent helping people borrow money. But the best thing you can do is save up yourself for those big things. So all of us at one point or another need a vehicle, or we may need, some big purchase that we may have in mind that we want to set aside for, and really just being able to get in a good habit of saving and having that money ready to go whenever you're ready to take on that big project or that big expense. It's very valuable. And so establishing a relationship with a bank is very useful from that standpoint, but also you start to get to know the people. And so whenever you do need to go borrow money or you do need to have help with something, there are all sorts of different services that a bank offers. We have safe deposit boxes if you want to keep things in a safe location. If you have a need for a debit card or to write checks or something like that, you may want a checking account. Again, if you need to borrow money to purchase a vehicle or a home or start a business, if you need to wire funds from one place to another, there's a lot of different services that we offer. And so just kind of establishing a relationship can be very helpful. And over time, you kind of develop those those relationships, and you have friends that work there, and you can call them up and say, hey, this is what I need to do. How do I go about doing that? I think that's a really beneficial thing for most people, especially getting started.
Yeah. Cool.
Is there anything that you guys were just curious about in general?
Yeah. What's like can you like apply to be a bank person? Like,
Yeah, just to come work at the bank?
yeah.
Sure.
I always keep applications on hand since Cameron mentioned I do HR. So we have those. We're always accepting those. You do have
Okay.
to be 18. So you can always keep that
In mind.
thoughts. But we keep those on hand, and then anytime that we have somebody that we need to potentially look to hire, generally we'll start at the teller level. Not to say that that always happens, but that's kind of where the starting point is. I started as a teller. Our bank president, he started as a teller way back when. So it's always a good foot in the door, and it's a good, kind of direction to go.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell me what a teller is?
Okay, so the teller will be your front person whenever you come in, and they're the ones that usually are answering the phones in our location at least. And then they will handle if you want to come and withdraw funds from your account or deposit funds into your account. And they kind of take care of the money handling.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for coming today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
I enjoyed learning about the bank.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you.